Hi, I'm Anna McKerrow. This is my Magical People series, and this morning I'm here with Maria. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Maria, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Hi, my name's Maria. I'm a mum, I'm a wife, but I'm also an holistic healthcare practitioner, something that I've been involved in over the last 20 years.
Right. And what comes under that umbrella?
Well, reflexology, Reiki, Rahani, celestial healing, and primarily for me, the BodyTalk system, which is something I learned, over 14 years ago now.
Yeah.
As a complete healthcare modality, but it's totally changed my life.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Well, first of all, can you tell us what BodyTalk is then, maybe, and then I'll ask you how it changed your life.
Okay, so BodyTalk is, as I say, it's a complete healthcare system. What it does is it enables the practitioners to create a space where they can communicate with the innate wisdom of the client. So we use like a muscle test, using our own innate wisdom to guide us to answer specific questions, getting yes and no responses that guide the practitioner to the specific organ, endocrine or body part, or what other item comes up in that client's life. And it can literally be anything. It can go right off we have a protocol chart that we follow, but it can go right outside this chart. We can look at past lives. Well, it's just anything at all. But it's so dynamic, because whatever the client comes to the session with, the innate wisdom will allow us to see what the priority is that's to be balanced. And then we use formulas, because the head brain, we have three brains, head, heart, and gut. The head brain likes to work with formula. And that's how it keeps on top of what's going on within the whole body and keeps us in balance. So what we're highlighting is what needs balancing. And in formula, we have, for example, an organ may come up that needs to link to an endocrine. There may be an emotional release. We use Chinese medicine philosophies in the system as well, Ayurvedic philosophies. It's massive, and the system is so open. I think that's what's so fantastic about it, is that you can tune into anything. And when you're using, we use a system called Mindscape, which is open to everyone to learn. And it's basically like almost like a meditative tool, but an active meditation. So you're going within your mind, going to a space within your head. And because you've created this space, all the neural pathways are, blocked into that. It's almost like it takes you straight into like a delta theta mode, also a meditative type of state. And within that place, you can work on yourself, you can work with archetypes, you can invite your clients in. So oftentimes what happens is we have a door where the client can come in. It's totally protected and safe for the practitioner. And then what we're actually doing is we're tuning into the energy of that person, and we can see things, we can feel things. It's amazing. Particularly when I'm working with animals as well, to be able to tune into the animal, and sometimes even having to step into that animal to feel what it is they're feeling. It can be amazing. So I'm digressing a little bit here. I once did that with a pig. And I had the most exciting experience to feel what it was like to have a curly tail. It was so funny.
What was it like? Was it delightful?
It was really weird. Yes, it was actually very, I don't know, it was exciting, and it was freeing in some way, just to feel this tail and to be able to move this tail. It was bizarre. But anyway, I digress.
I welcome digressions.
So BodyTalk as a system is just a very dynamic healing modality. It's a tool that enables us to tune in, as I said earlier, and then whatever comes up, whatever other modality may come up as well. So during any session, for example, if the client requires to have some reflexology or Reiki or Rahani, anything else I do, I can integrate that into their session.
Okay.
And then the other side of it too is being able to work remotely. And that whole paradigm around being able to tune in to anybody, wherever they are in the world, just by having a name, an idea of whereabouts they are, a picture perhaps, and then be able to remote view and work with them too. And that very much heavily involves the Mindscape work. where all those visualizations are going on. So yeah,
that it's such a fascinating practice, I find. So I've done many body talk sessions with you as the therapist, and I always find it incredibly profound. And I've also always come away so impressed by just the wealth of knowledge that you have about you just know everything about the sort of physical systems, as you say, hormonal systems, endocrine systems, everything, the Ayurveda, blah, blah, it's kind of all of these other different levels that you're kind of like, oh, we're talking about here, this, we're doing this now. It's as you say, very syncretic in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. So did it mean that you had to study for a long time to kind of learn all this stuff?
It's funny. I suppose it's an accumulation of years of just looking at reading stuff, looking at stuff. But when you work within the BodyTalk system, I must admit their training is so comprehensive. When you start off, you do a full weekend. Is it 4 days? I think it's 4 days, and you get given this manual that's so thick, and you literally just go through this manual. And by the time you get through to even to day one, end of day one, your mind is blown just because there's so many different procedures, different philosophies being brought in. But of course, then you just practice that. And it is literally just practice and just keep repeating it, creating those new habits. But the great thing is, because it's all energy, it doesn't matter if during a session I stop to look at a book, to pull a book out and have a look through to a page. I mean, sometimes Innate will guide you specifically to a page, to a specific line, a paragraph or something. So you're just open to all of that. And I think that's what's so amazing about it, is that, we are all energy. Everything is energy. And it doesn't matter what anybody believes. You can just bring that in, So if somebody comes into a session and their philosophies maybe are verdict, like you've mentioned, or they might believe in angels or fairies or whatever their belief systems are when they come into that room, the session is totally open to accept what that is, because you're working with that client's belief systems, and you can bring those energies through. So angels can come into a session, past lives, they can pop up and they can be very interesting. But I don't know if you recall, but we look at, from the BodyTalk perspective, we look at past lives as being more the Ayurvedic belief, which is this universe is very much about balance. So what happens when somebody passes and there's an imbalance in the energies, that energy goes into a sea of energy called the Mahat. So what happens when a new soul is born is they almost like scoop up a bucket of this energy, and it becomes part of their own DNA. So it's almost like that energy is then in their life for them to play out in their lifetime to balance it. So oftentimes when an energy comes up, it's close to past life, we don't look at it as being personal. It wasn't you personally, Anna didn't personally, she wasn't Cleopatra, but you've got maybe just a little bit of her energy within you, which is just part of that whole hologram, which can reflect her whole life. But so can hundreds and thousands of other people all say, at some point they might have a past life regression and they'd be told, oh, you were Cleopatra. Well, you couldn't all have been Cleopatra.
No, indeed.
But what you've got is a little bit of that hologram, and that reflects that whole. So that works out. So it's just so amazing, and you never have two sessions the same. That's what's so really cool about it. How people come in presenting with a symptom, they don't know what the cause is, neither do I, and it's not about me treating that either. What's happening is I am allowing them to become relaxed and in a state where I can help them observe some balances that need balancing. And when you unravel those, it's like the peeling of the onion, the layers. Once you start unraveling it all, suddenly things start to pop up, and even though they may have a bad knee, it may well be a childhood memory that's actually creating a belief system within them that is not enabling them to move forward. It's crippling them, it's bringing you to your knees. So there's all those holistic beliefs as well behind what different systems and different body parts, what it means when there's a symptom, there's a disease, there's a pain. So it's so interesting, very, very interesting.
Do you find that most people that you see for body talk are coming with a physical symptom, or do people tend to come more because they are, kind of maybe have mental health, or is it just for like wellness, or a mix of all of those things?
All of it. All of it. You can get some people just coming along because they feel stuck in their life. They don't feel like they know their purpose. So we're helping them to become more centered, more grounded through their session. And invariably what happens is we look at, and I think it's so interesting when you begin to understand the human psyche and why, what makes us human, is the fact that we're born, we're not a blank slate when we're born. We've got, the genetics, you've got programming, you've got like we said, the averdic concept of, other past lives within our DNA to play out through this lifetime. So you're not born a blank slate, but then for the first 7 years of your life, you're a huge sponge. So you're just absolutely absorbing all the belief systems and all the interactions around you through those first, 7 or so years, which basically then lays out your beliefs around what the world is like and how you behave in that world to get what it is you want. And then, of course, puberty hits, good God, and then you rebel and everything goes haywire. And then, so you've got these cycles in life that we play out. But the whole premise behind it is once we get to a certain age, maybe sort of, I think kids actually, they're quite aware these days, but it's getting younger and younger. But by the time you're about in your 20s, maybe 30s, you can start to look at stuff. And I think there's definitely more therapy around now, more consciousness awareness around now. And people are getting that younger and younger to realize we're not our programming, we're not our belief systems. And it's our belief systems and our programming that sort of controls us if we're unconscious as to how we behave in everyday life. And that whole concept then of, I believe this, that, or the other, your whole body mind is holding up those beliefs, those programmings, and playing them out. But it's a stress because it's not real. So you're really trying to, your ego, if you like, is trying to defend your corner the whole time because of all this programming and belief systems. So once we start to unravel those and you begin to see that what you believe perhaps isn't real, or there's another alternative perspective to that, once we realize that in life when we interact with other people, that what they're giving across as their opinion or their belief is their opinion and their belief through their eyes, because they see the world in a very different way to you. Nothing's personal. So you might be there saying, well, this is my belief. Ego comes in and you defend your corner. Somebody else is there saying, well, no, it's not, it's this. And that's where we get all these argumentative dramas, etc. And that's fine. But once you begin to realize this is what's happening, this is the programming, this is the belief systems, and we start to let them go, we're able to stay much more in a centered space. We let go of attachments and we can observe more, and then when you are ready to step in and comment, even if it's wrong, you can see that, you begin to understand that. And that's all part of that process too of, I don't want to say enlightenment, but it is a sort, enlightenment, put it up there in a big pedestal, but it is a form of enlightenment. It's a form of, you're lightening up physically and within your mind, and it just opens you up to so much possibility. It's very much like, the film The Matrix, where the suggestion that everybody's asleep in this world, but it's not the real world, And it is almost, the person who wrote that film, amazing, because it sort of really parallels the ideals around having this conscious awareness of what potentially we are, this soul in a body experiencing human life, and the potential that actually we are really all connected, because that soul comes from source. And that source, whatever you want to call that, nothing religious here, but whatever you want to call it, that source is everywhere. And we're all one. We're all one because of that connection. But being in the human body, with the many layers we have of belief systems, our programmings, we don't automatically have that awareness to this connection. And I suppose for me, by working with, well, it's not work, by using BodyTalk as a tool, and the ideals that come with it, it helps me to be in that world of energy, of potential, You know, for what, so whatever, you know, as it says, whatever happens in life, where your attention goes, attention goes, was it?
Energy flows.
No, yeah, energy flows, or was it intention flows? Is the other way of looking at it.
Okay.
Intention flows. So, but you're right, and it's the same like with emotions. You know, the emotions that bubble up in our body are there to help guide us. You know, let us know whether something feels right or feel wrong. But you know, there's a huge gap where people just aren't aware that this is the possibility we have when we're in tune with ourselves, our intuition, our higher self, whatever you want to call it, is there to guide us. You know, the emotions coming into the body are there as a real tangible sense of physical feeling as to whether something feels right or wrong. And if we're able to give ourselves any space, you know, that moment, just by staying present, just by, you know, being quiet for a little while, we can understand what's happening with the emotion. And the emotion is just, well, it's just energy. It's energy that's just moving through the body, you know, but it can get stuck. You know, and if we don't face it, if we don't face something, or we, you know, typical British, you know, idea is just squash it down, don't look at it. Well, you do that, the energy's got to go somewhere, you know. So what happens is it gets stored in the body. So the liver, the gallbladder, meridians, they're all about planning and decision making. They'll decide, where does the emotion go? You know, so it's got to go somewhere. If you're not learning from it, it can't be released. It's like it stays in the body. So they will decide, we'll store it here, we'll put it in this organ or this endocrine or this body part. But inevitably what happens is too much emotion stored creates a blockage in the energy flow, which then leads to a symptom. And that's the underlying principle around everything that we look at with BodyTalk, is really about releasing these emotions, understanding what may have created those through the belief systems, and then, tapping. We use tapping. So once we have our formula and we've got the understanding of what's going on, and you know, we've almost told that story to the client, so we've brought it to their conscious awareness, we then use tapping to help focus. And if you like, the body just, you know, the body does the healing. I'm not doing anything, I've just observed this. But then we use tapping, and we tap over our head. This is the head brain. We tap over the heart for the heart brain, which is where everything gets remembered, but also to the gut brain, because this is where everything gets synthesized. So we tap over these three areas, and it just really helps the formula to be fully integrated, if you like, and focused for the brain to then do the work. And then the healing happens, the balances happen.
So I think I love that. I find it a very kind of similar approach in a way, in terms of like thinking about how energy works in the body, and the energy bodies to Reiki, in that that's this kind of similar, and you're a Reiki practitioner as well, similar concept of energy bodies, emotional body, mental, you know, and that things maybe, as you say, come in and can start manifesting in the physical, and you want to kind of send it back out again. And what was I going to say? I was going to say something really wise then. That's gone. It'll come back to me.
It will.
But but basically, the body heals itself, as you say. So it's not about you as well, you are, you know, an amazing guru, but you know, it's not about you. Guru, you are. It's so wise, but it's about empowering the person's system to do it for themselves, rather than, which I think is such a nice and kind of, it's very logical and much better way of seeing health than I have a problem and I need somebody else to make it go away, kind of thing. I mean, sometimes, yes, we do. Sometimes we need a surgeon. Sometimes we need, you know, a particular drug or anything. I'm not saying that's bad, but for that overall wellness,
absolutely. I mean, the innate wisdom of the body, you know, that ability to heal itself is phenomenal. I mean, you know, you cut your hand. I mean, the processes that go on to heal that, you know, the nerve supply, the lymphatics, the blood flow, how the skin knits itself back together again. I mean, as the human, you're not involved in any of that process. So the power that the body has to heal is just so phenomenal. You know, and even if you've had the surgery, you know, you've gone to the hospital, you've had the surgeon physically cut into the body and do whatever, the body still has to do the healing. And I mean, yes, supported by medical, drugs perhaps to help facilitate that at the time. But that really just helps, I think, us as humans to get out of the way. Because particularly when we're living the type of life we might lead where there's too much stress, we're not really focusing within, we're so in this outside world that, you get quite lost and quite stressed around it. But the body still does its thing. I mean, the human body is very resilient. But every now and again, you just need a little tweak, a little bit of focus, perhaps, a little bit of assistance from somebody else just to help you say, to see what might be going on and what may be behind all of that. And I think that's what's so phenomenal about when I work with people, the way we've been trained as BodyTalk practitioners is to work from that zone state. So it's not my conscious mind that is saying you do this, that, or this is what's happening. It's very much I'm working in a zone. I'm in a very relaxed state. My intuition's involved. We have the process of the, sorry, excuse me, Daisy. I'm sorry, the dog is just eating something she shouldn't be.
Daisy.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's the joy of Zoom.
Yeah. As I say, you're just really helping the client's subconscious, we're reading the client's subconscious in that state, in that zone, using the protocol to guide us with our questioning. And then, of course, the more you work with BodyTalk, the more intuitive it becomes, the more it sort of just flows, the observations, our sixth senses really start to come in, and you, depending on, what your strengths are, you see, you hear, you taste, smell, sometimes even, whatever comes in for the practitioner to assist with the session.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's phenomenal, as I said before.
It's so
amazing.
Remarkable. Yeah. So I mean, and also, I mean, I think I've been seeing you for definitely a few years now, and I've probably come maybe once or sometimes twice a year, so not that often, but every time it's, as you say, kind of like having a tune-up, and I always have really really vivid dreams afterwards. And my favorite one, I think, was maybe after the first time I came to see you, but I had this incredibly vivid dream. Well, I was literally walking around inside my own brain, and it was all very like kind of responding to this, I think, sort of the brain kind of going, okay, just reprogramming a bit here. And it was like The West Wing. Do you know The West Wing?
I've heard of it. I've not watched that.
It's like a show about the White House and sort of politics with a kind of slightly sort of a liberal president. It's all very idealistic. It's really good. But anyway, in The West Wing, they're always walking around really busily through corridors. Everyone's like walking and talking and walking, and that was what it was like. I'm like walking through these very rooms with all this busy stuff going on, and I kind of looked into this room, and they're like all dressed up in funny costumes, and anyway, it was all incredibly complicated.
Yes.
But it was, I woke up and thought, well, I just saw inside my own brain. That was quite interesting. Yeah, but I think when I've talked to people about it, it's not maybe that well known as a therapy.
No, it's bizarre because the founder, John Beltime, he's actually from Australia, and he now lives in America. So it's actually really big in Australia. It's all over the world. Really big in America, Germany, and there are hundreds of practitioners in the UK. But for whatever reason, the UK doesn't seem to have really just kicked off and gone big with it. It's just it's trickling behind the scenes. And it's funny because we've looked at the idea of why is that happening? And again, you're looking at the matrix again. So you're looking at the matrix of what England is. And if you look at England as a matrix, we've got a lot of history. And that plays a big part of, who we are as people, how we live our lives every day, etc. And it's weird because over the years, I know there's been many, many matrix sessions on the whole of the UK coming together and, stepping up and coming forward. But for some reason, it just hasn't really pushed through. Don't know why. But it is, once you start looking for it, it's out there, and there are loads of practitioners around. For some reason, we're just not shouting yet.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just the British, we won't do that. We won't push it. Yeah. We're not good salespeople. Well, practitioners aren't anyway.
Well, yeah. I don't. But I'm a great believer in when you're ready for the teacher, they will come, and
I think
big
time.
stands for
word
therapists
of
as
mouth.
well. You know,
Yeah, word of mouth. Yeah,
it will, you know, come when you need it and things. But I think it's nice to tell people about it as well, because it's such a great therapy and experience. And actually, I mean, probably quite important to say that people might be thinking, what actually happens? Like, do I have to be naked? You know, people worry about things like this, you know, but
not unless you want
you're fully
to.
clothed and you just
You
lie
are.
down, and Maria will talk to you and kind of sit next to you. You might touch me here.
Yeah, the muscle testing is just like a
kind of put your fingers there, and you might, as you say, tap me on the head a bit, and here. And but in terms of contact, that's kind of about as far as it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, we like to help, you know, the client gets involved in any contact with the body as well, because as a formula arises, say the formula begins with a specific organ, we'll ask the client to place the hand on the body over that particular organ, just to help focus the session. And it helps the client to focus too, you know, because they're consciously involved at that point. But yes, as you say, apart from, you know, my holding onto the arm and, you know, the slight pulling that's involved with the muscle test, not like kinesiology, which is arm out and it's quite, you know, active. You're just totally relaxed. You're fully clothed. You're laying on the massage couch. There's a blanket. There's a pillow. You know, you're just really relaxed. And I like actually to put a little bit of music on in the background as well, which gives a little bit of frequency from music coming in, because that's all very much about the healing as well. And then whatever comes up in the session, whatever they need, you know, and that could involve crystals, you know, and if I was somebody who was an aromatherapist, it could involve oils, you know, whatever your modality is, whatever is available in that room. But also that potential to reach out to the energy of something that isn't in that space. So, for example, acupuncture. I might get other modality come up to connect to an acupuncturist, and I may know that person, I may not know them, but just to the sheer energy of acupuncture, to needle a specific point. And the innate will guide me to what point that might be, and then the client or myself will just touch. We don't do anything, we're just touching, but the whole intention there is we're releasing this point, we're releasing this energy that's stuck by bringing that acupressure energy in. I mean, and that's what's so fantastic about that, is whatever you can imagine, whatever you can visualize in that moment, for me, is real. It's happening.
Yeah. It's amazing. Thank you for, you know, talking so eloquently about it as well. It's so fascinating to listen to you always. So I'm sure lots of people watching this will be like amazed and wowed. And I'm going to put your website at the bottom of the video, but just say what it is now.
Yes, website mariawilson.co.uk.
Lovely.
And it does need updating, so bear with me.
But people can contact you through that for treatments if they want to.
They can, yes, they can get me there. I'm on Facebook as well. I have a page called Distance Healing with Maria Wilson on Facebook, so they can message me through there too if they wish to. So, but yeah.
Thought I'll just get that in there while I remember. Okay, so Maria, tell me, do you have any maxims for living life?
God, that's a big one, isn't it?
I know, it's a big question.
Well, I mean,
don't worry, I kind of think I don't. So
I mean, I had to, when I saw that was going to be a question, I had to think about it. And I thought, maxims for life. You know what? I just think I just try to be as mindful as I can, and I'm not perfect at it by any means. I do happen to live. My husband is a man who's had a huge shift in the last few years, and he's reached a state of enlightenment, if that's what you wish to call it, where he is in the zone. He's dropped all his attachments and belief systems. So living with a man like that can be very difficult and humbling. But also what it does do is the energy is very, very calm, very balanced all around me, which enables me to be in a similar state. And I must admit, I tend not to be, I must have dropped some, plenty of belief systems through much practice with BodyTalk, sessions for myself too, but also with the learnings I've had from my husband and his awareness. But I think just generally it's about being in the moment, living life, being lighter, laughing more, opening up, really allowing yourself to come from a space more of love than of defense and you know, being the ego all the time. But again, I know that's not easy for everybody, and I suppose that's where the whole process of doing your own searching within. Meditation, I've never been a big one for meditation, and I always say to myself, Marie, you really ought to do that more. I just never seem to do that. But saying that, the whole mindfulness, you know, the process with Mindscape I mentioned earlier, that is almost like a meditation in a way, because you're allowing yourself to be still. And I think that's important, to be still, to be looking within, and doing it regularly, you know, not just like, you know, for an hour in the morning or whatever, but doing it throughout your day and being mindful throughout the day. Don't let those thoughts that are, you know, chattering away control you, you know, because they will just bounce off. What might going on for you, but what you eat, you know, for years I resisted the whole concept of you are what you eat. You are what you eat, because it reflects hugely into the brain, and it will then impact the whole process of what energy is around you, what you're giving off, to what you attract to you. So again, you know, be mindful around that. You know, there's a lot of things out there about, you know, healthy eating at the moment, but just find what works for you. So yeah, I mean, I don't have too many maxims, but I think I just try to stay present, and I try not to allow other people's dramas to pull me in. At the end of the day, you know, what is it they say about monkeys in circuses?
I was just going to say, not my circus, not my monkeys. I know.
That's the one. That's
a good one to bear in mind. I try and remember that quite a lot too. And I do find that helpful.
So you know, so on a daily basis, you know, if I get an opportunity to speak with anybody, friends, family, you know, even, you know, potential clients that come my way, I just hope that I can allow them to see their full potential by allowing themselves to understand their belief systems and their programming, and the realization too that there is light on the other side. You know, you allow those things to fall away, that inner light begins to shine more, and you become more peaceful, more calmed, more centered. Life begins to change, you know, very, very, very different.
That makes me, I'm just remembering now, I was going to ask you how, because you said your life changed totally when you started down this path. How did it change?
Wow. Module 3 in BodyTalk, we've got a module 3, and it's all about consciousness. And I'd managed to get to my 30s without even hearing or being aware of the fact that we are more than our body. You know, there's this potential of this other side of us, this conscious awareness that, you know, we are all connected. As I mentioned earlier, the whole process of perhaps the soul is part of source within the human body. And this is this ultimate connection that we have. So for me, learning that and understanding myself better in so many ways was huge. And that began my own process of unwinding. And then obviously practicing BodyTalk, whenever I'm with a client, I'm working on them, but I also help myself in the same moment. I also then have BodyTalk sessions on myself from somebody else, so that they can help me see, you know, potential blocks, belief systems, programmings that aren't serving me any longer. So when you start doing all that, you begin to unravel and release, and then you let go of attachments. And when we release those things and the attachments, there's less stress. And when there's less stress, life just seems to flow, because suddenly you're in it, you're in that flow, you're in that awareness. And in that awareness, synchronicities happen, coincidences occur. And because you're not overly stressed, you'll notice them. And they're just, you know, there's little things that make you smile because, you know, something that you did there led to this, led to that, and you begin to see these connections. You know, it's amazing how, you know, I always say to myself, I really ought to do a marketing course because I really need to market myself more. And then it never happens. But suddenly I'll have 3 or 4 clients all pop up, you know, almost together, like buses come along together. And it's just word of mouth. You know, it really is word of mouth that is the strongest thing. And I do believe that when you're ready and your energy is open and you just let your light shine, it's like a ripple effect. It just goes out there and it just tweaks everybody. Every now and again, it tweaks someone and they'll get in touch and they're, you know, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So yeah, so for me it was huge. Body Talk was what introduced me to consciousness, and the idea of energy, and therefore making life for me more tangible, more
Yeah, and you can, I can see, and I think people watching can see what a calm and centered person you are.
Oh,
I'm
should have
sure you
seen
have
me
your
earlier.
moments.
Yeah, I do.
No,
but I mean,
you get that feeling from people, and that you can
Mm.
definitely see that with you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
But yes, as I say, I'm very lucky. I don't have much drama and stress around me, and even if it does surface and bubble up, I'm able just to step back a little bit and actually observe it, and then think about how rather than just being reactionary, it's about then actually how do I respond, in such a way, so I will never feed into drama. I'll just observe it, and then I'll hopefully come up with, if I have to give a response, that'll help to just, diffuse that drama for that person and help them to see perhaps an alternative perspective, which will help them unravel it themselves. Because it is very much coming from the empathic perspective, not the sympathetic perspective.
Yes, no, that's a really good point. And so much of what you're doing with Body Talk and all those other complementary things, the healing, it's very much in that empathetic area, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So what haven't we covered so far? So I usually ask people, Maria, can they recommend like a particular book or a resource, or apart from your own website, obviously, that might be useful to people, they might find interesting?
Yes, well, difficult one, because there are so many good books out there, and I've read so many different books. Start with the website, BodyTalk System. There is the International BodyTalk Association. You can go to that website, which is bodytalksystem.com, and that's like the main headquarters for BodyTalk. So you can look at that, and there's loads and loads of stuff on there. My own website has lots of information about BodyTalk as well, so you can get some information off there. But I mean, really, we've got such a wonderful source at our hands with the internet these days. And I think it really is just a matter of, like Amazon, dare I say it, go on there, put a search in for, mindfulness or whatever. You get loads of different books come up, and with reviews and what they're about, and just be guided by yourself, I think is the main thing, because, certain books will relate to certain people, and I could refer, I don't know, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Phenomenal book, but it doesn't always resonate with certain people. So I'd love to be able to say I have a favorite book. There are so many.
Well, no, and that's a good recommendation as well, Eckhart Tolle. And but yes, I always take the view, like being a huge book nerd and buying like a bajillion books all the time, is that whatever I buy, it's never the wrong book anyway, because it's always going to take you somewhere. It's either going to be something that blows your mind, you love it, or you hate it, and then you think, well, I'm not going down that road again, or kind of you find things, so there's never a waste of time.
I must plug my husband's book, actually. Because he wrote about his experience. So here I am, I'm the practitioner, I'm the one going through all the therapy, having wonderful sessions, enhancing my vibration, hoping to reach a point of consciousness where I can just let go of everything. And unbeknownst to myself, my husband's at home trying to disprove everything that I'm coming back with, saying, oh, this is so exciting, you've got to look at this. He's trying to disprove it all, research. Unbeknownst to myself, my husband has gone through a total phase and a shift whereby he lets go of everything and switches into this higher phase of consciousness. And he's enlightened, yes, but maybe not totally, who knows how many levels, but he's got to an enlightened state. And I'm like, I don't believe him. How has this happened? And the funny thing is, he wrote about all of this, and he's put it into a book, and the book has been out there for a few years now. It's called Enlightenment: The Keys to Consciousness by Martin Wilson, and that's on Amazon. So if anybody's interested, and I think what it does is it gives everybody the realization that enlightenment is not something that should be put on a pedestal. It's something we all are. It's just like the light bulb underneath all the belief systems and all the programming. It's there, it's already here. We already have it. We just need to allow ourselves to believe that and unravel enough to allow it to shine, if you like. But he's a very, very down-to-earth, grounded man. And his process, and he questions it all along. Am I enlightened? Is this what enlightenment is? But certainly when you look at the process he went through, there's no doubt in my mind that he's had a really big shift in consciousness, in awareness. And as I say, now he very much lives that from that perspective, you know, in the moment, in the now. He, you know, and the thing about that for me was realizing that somebody of his caliber, I mean, they're not the big guru necessarily, you know, they're not to be put on the pedestal. They're an everyday person who's just let go of everything. And in the moment, they can still get cross, they can still be angry, they can still have a reaction, but they'll just let go of it, you know, or they'll adjust their behavior accordingly moving forward from that moment. But his potential to be able to look at somebody and just see their energy field and know where they're at, you know, amazes me, because it's not a skill I have. I'd love to be able to do that, but I'm not one who sees through visual sight. You know, my stuff all comes in when I'm in that zone, and I work that way. And that's something I'm working more toward, is integrating it more into everyday life. You know, which, yeah, it's got to be the ideal, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. How amazing that happened, as you say, sort of apparently independent from you, although I'm sure that you were a big influence on that, in terms of, you know, just being around, and other people, even if they don't know it, are very, very receptive of what is around them, aren't they? You know, you can feel energies from other people, you know.
That's right.
Negatively.
Yeah, we often say that I in a way facilitated him with the information, which then helped him to be in a certain space to do what happened. And it was almost the masculine feminine balance that was coming in there. And you know, and he's often questioned and said to me, but don't you want to be where I'm at? And I'll say no, because actually I get where he's at, but I also like being more grounded and more in the human thing. So I'm like on the fence with it. You know, I can be in a moment where there's no thought. You're just totally in that space of bliss. And then I can be in a moment where there's anxiety or stress, and then I can be in a moment where there's just calm. You know, and I think that's what keeps it real for me. But he's very much there. He's very much the grounding influence. So if I get dramatic, he's there and he's going like, okay, really? What's the ego doing here?
Yeah.
So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Maria. This has been such an interesting talk, and
You're welcome.
I really hope that people watching have learned a lot. I'm sure they have.
Well, I hope so.
No, absolutely. So they can find you at your website, which is mariawilson.co.uk, and I will put that and bodytalksystem.com.
Yes.
Underneath video. And yeah, it's been great to see you.
And you. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, oh God. For real.
and as they say in a lot of circles, namaste.
Oh, namaste.
Okay.